Hello everyone, so instead of actually doing my usual review and top moments, this week I'll do things differently, discussing my theories on how the current season of the Blacklist would come to an end while considering all we have on our plate so far, including the events of the 19th and the 28th episode of the current season. So good news everyone, the Blacklist is returning for a 5th season. No luck of course for the Blacklist Redemption given its ratings. I still haven't gotten around to watching it so I can't really judge, but it seems the fans in general have spoken and it wasn't good for the spin-off. Now while we're at it, and among other NBC shows, the network seemed to have renewed Blind Spot for a 3rd season and axed Timeless. Kinda stupid if you ask me, considering Blind Spot runs in a similar circle to the Blacklist and have failed miserably in keeping a steady audience. Even the drops in viewership for Blind Spot were always steep and scary, but nonetheless the business rationale must involve something about the costs and benefits of keeping both, and I'm guessing Blind Spot won in such a comparison. Now before I start discussing my finale theories and what I'd like to see on the 5th season of the show, I did mention in my most recent Blacklist video how the mommy theory was pretty obsolete before it even came to exist, and in response to an argument on the subject, the scars on Raymond's back do not stand as proof of the theory. The question of how he got them is not a valid question either. There are a whole lot of years of Reddington history that we happen to have not a single clue about. He did state he was there the night of the fire and that he saved Liz. At some point as well, she remembered that night and remembered him come to her rescue, possibly explaining he might have gone and set scars on that particular night. We actually got to watch that whole memory sequence back then as she came to remember it. There is also a very important question I would ask myself if I were to sport this whole Reddington is Katarina Rostova theory. Don't you think if that were to be the case, and she went through the trouble of changing everything about her, she would have removed those scars? I mean, that would sort of make a lot of sense. But moving on to the most recent couple of episodes, I think they were pretty decent. They're definitely two of my favorites this season. Kaplan makes one hell of an antagonist, even though she isn't really all that much of an antagonist. It's just how we probably end up seeing it as Reddington fans. But as I mentioned, both episodes were pretty surprising, and I kind of really liked them more than most of the seasons and the 3rd season's episodes. Both of these episodes left us with a lot to think about, and the promo of the 2-hour season finale left us with a lot more of that. Number 1. The reveal at the end of last week's episode was either a very good reveal that we can build the future of the story on, or a move made by Bogdan Krylov to get himself out of trouble, or one he was advised to make by Kaplan to throw doubt into Lizzie's heart. In all cases, that was about one of the very few times I could understand Lizzie's anger, which otherwise is usually unnecessary and badly written. Number 2. Elizabeth being kidnapped by the debt collector, only for us to realize later on that it was no one seeking revenge upon her, but was rather Reddington trying to lure Kaplan in by staging danger around Lizzie. The question here is, how will all of this affect the Red-Liz dynamic in the long run? Number 3. Dembe might have been unhappy with Raymond's decision to kill Kaplan, but he's now all in and on Raymond's side. He seems to believe as well Kaplan must be stopped. I would have personally thought he would be on Team Liz, attempting to save Kaplan from Raymond's wrath, trying to negotiate a peace treaty between the two sides, but he's not. You gotta love how Dembe's character works on the show, and I guess the whole loyalty to Red was well described when Red gave him the gift box and made him that offer to walk away whenever he likes. No questions asked. Number 4. The promo of the 2-hour season finale promises us the reveal of whether or not Red is Lizzie's father. Now I personally believe the answer to that question has been handed to us long ago, back when Kirk abducted Red, but you never know how the writers want to play it. So I guess there is the possibility the reveal is going to be all about Lizzie finding out, or it will be about the writers trying to drag this whole thing even further and leaving us with a cliffhanger on the daddy topic. Number 5. Agent Gale has it in for Reddington, and for good reason. As slimy as the way he moves and the way he talks happens to be, he has his heart in the right place, and he'll go to any length to avenge the people he promised safety once they turn against Reddington, but never managed to deliver on his promise. Besides, he now knows it all, and he's going to make his biggest move yet on next week's episode. Number 6. A war's coming. Kate might be igniting it, but she'll lead Raymond right into starting it, and that seems to be part of her greater scheme. Number 7. Kate will do whatever it takes to take down Reddington, wreaking havoc and bringing destruction in her wake on anyone and everyone who stands in her way. Alright, so based on all of this information, we have a Reddington fighting wars on 3 fronts. One happens to be that of Agent Gale, the second happens to be that of all those associates that Kate plans on turning against him one after the other, and the third being Kate herself and all the surprise obstacles she's going to put in Red's way. Now for starters, if this season is anything like the previous 3, it is going to leave us with one major cliffhanger, mostly related to the arc of the spring portion of the current season. So we've got a few scenarios here, the first being Reddington being taken down by the end of the season for good, which I don't see happening considering the show has been renewed for a 5th season. And of course, the fact the man who evaded capture his entire life wouldn't just go down so easily at the hands of his former cleaner. Now the second scenario happens to be about Reddington going down in a temporary manner, with a big question mark at the end of the season, one about how he will manage to get out of this pickle. Now this scenario could be more about Red being in a season 3 finale Lizzie situation, taken by other members of the criminal underworld, the way she was taken by Kirk. That, or it could be about Gale actually managing to bring Raymond to justice. This whole bringing Red to justice crusade of Gale's, though, does pose a couple of important questions. Number 1. Does putting Raymond behind bars do more good than justice, or does taking down the endless names on his blacklist? Number 2. Could Gale end up realizing that one man walking free is better than hundreds on his list, wreaking havoc and bringing about chaos all over the board? Now the third scenario is more about Red being on the run in a similar manner to Lizzie's situation as of the end of the 2nd season of the show, only this time he wouldn't be trying to exonerate himself the way she did, but instead he would be ducking for cover, trying to avoid being caught by all the guns that would be coming for him, both criminal and legal. Now in this case we'll have a 5th season with Red feeding the task force names that would probably support his ability to escape all those guns I just mentioned, gunning them down instead, in a manner of speaking, ensuring his safety and livelihood. Sooner or later, of course, the story will play out in such a way that Red comes out of it perfectly fine and unharmed in a way. Finally, the 4th scenario will involve the arc that might have seemed sealed but has never gotten a satisfying and final conclusion: the Cabal. Now it is clear to everyone that Donald Wrestler is not going to let Laurel Hitchin get away with her crimes. It is also clear that Liz is on Team Wrestler when it comes to this one. It is also clear the Cabal still operates, lurking in the shadows and doing their thing. And now that the Blacklist has been renewed for a 5th season, chances it would be this show's final run are pretty high, unless the show miraculously pulls one amazing season that elevates its viewership and ratings back to its 3rd season ratings at least. It is an extremely tough equation when you think about it. For one, the Cabal arc should be the final arc on the series, the one that has the show going out with a bang, yet I believe it is the only arc that gives the series a chance of renewal beyond the 5th. If there's one arc that could give the show the kiss of life, it will be this one arc, and considering it is already 2017, the 5th season should be putting the Cabal on stage. Now in order to achieve that, the Kaplan arc should be ending by the end of the season, with Red walking out of all of it victorious, or worst case scenario, it should be ending very early on in the 5th season run. Sort of within the first couple of episodes, while dedicating the rest of the full episodes to a Cabal in action arc, and Raymond racing along with the task force to stop them. It will be necessary as well to build up new and interesting characters similar to Matthias Solomon, the director, and Alan Fitch, and that would actually do part of the job, but only if these characters happen to be well written and well acted. And of course, more of Laurel Hitchin is a must. But to make a long story short, the Blacklist should capitalize on its best arc so far on the upcoming season of the show, and if the ratings were to go high enough, that arc could be even stretched further into a 6th season. Of course without all the lame and boring that usually comes with stretching. Basically doing it in a smart manner is the way to go, making the final arc on the final season of the show possibly about the return of Katarina if she were to be still alive. But in order to achieve that, the best strategy is to end the Kaplan arc on the finale, leaving no loose ends. The show as well needs to kill the whole "who's your daddy" question that keeps bouncing back like a bad penny. Like they have no new or genuine ideas to work with. It would also be preferable if the cliffhanger of the season is all about the Cabal making a move that would set the events of the 5th season in motion. But seriously, that whole "who's Lizzie's father" thing needs to go away if the show was to have a good enough 5th season and the possibility of a renewal for a 6th. But with that being said, my work here is done, so let me know in the comments what you thought of these finale theories, which one do you prefer the most, and what do you think should happen on the 5th season of the show. Personally, I prefer the Cabal coming into play theory. It is after all the best thing that could happen for the show at the moment, and the one that guarantees it a higher survival chance beyond season 5. But as usual, it's always much appreciated if you drop me a like if you like the content of this video, and if you subscribe if you want to see more Blacklist videos and reviews on What the Geek. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you soon.